Good morning, everybody. My name is Lindsey Funtik, and I am the coordinator of volunteer ministries at Ashford United Methodist Church. So I'm here to say happy Thursday. Welcome to Thursday devotionals. Every week I hop on here and I share a little bit about what the Lord is teaching me and some of my devotional thoughts throughout the week. So for those who are just joining us, welcome. And to Ashland First United Methodist, I love you. And I think of you often and I pray for you. And I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. So today, I just want to talk a little bit about the fact that it seems inherent in the human heart that we all want to do something great. This can manifest in many different ways. To some of us, greatness might look much different than it does for others. But I think that there's something in all of us that we want to leave a mark and we want to do great things and impact people. So, this might be true, but we often wonder, like, how do I best do that? Like, what great thing does God have for me? What is God's will? I can think of all these great things I want to do, but what is like the right great thing? And that's discernment, trying to figure out what God has for us. So I was thinking about this week while reading 1 Kings 18, and I'll just do a little bit of a recap. It's actually one of my favorite stories. But it features the prophet Elijah, and he confronts the unfaithful King Ahab, and he essentially challenges the prophets of Baal and Asherah to a showdown on top of Mount Carmel. And this is kind of a prove your deity type of duel, I would say. So it's Elijah as the lone prophet of Yahweh and 450 prophets of Baal. So the challenge is that each of them prepare a bull for sacrifice, but they don't set a fire, and they call upon their God to set said fire. So for the prophets of Baal, they go all day. They're invoking Baal. They are doing their tradition of cutting themselves, which is part of their customs, to no avail. No fire shows up. But Elijah, when it's his turn, he hops in and he prepares the bull and he makes an altar. And not only does he prep it, he also douses it with water and builds a moat around it. So it's not only my God can set this on fire, it's my God can set this on fire when it's soaking wet. So pretty confident, very bold, and it pays off. So God sends the fire, all of it is consumed, and ultimately the prophets of Baal are captured, and sort of mission accomplished, and Yahweh is proven. So there's more to the story that follows, but I think that we can all agree that this is a pretty big, great thing that Elijah did. So obviously very gutsy, and he made it even more gutsy by adding the water. But it made me think about what if he had done this without God's backing, I suppose you could say. Um, at first, I was like, well, that would just be silly. Like, why would he attempt to take on 450 foreign prophets um, in what could result in a very violent encounter? And while it might seem silly to look at it objectively, I think that we do this quite a bit. And I think that that's kind of sometimes part of being human is that we make these great attempts. We have these bold things that we want to do, these great things. But it's often like what we want. And I know for me in the past, even still today, I think it's really easy to convince ourselves that what we're doing, of course, it's God's will, and just sort of like slap the Holy Spirit approval on at the end. Be like, okay, I'm gonna go do this, come what may, and I hope you bless it. And I mean, sometimes that pays off, but sometimes that really can result in some dangerous things. So, like I said, if Elijah had walked into this scenario without it being the Lord's will, without having sought the Lord on this, then it could have ended very, very differently. And so I kind of noticed a trend in that discernment comes with familiarity. And let me kind of explain what I mean by that. A lot of the people who have done great things, who have been able to seek out and follow and execute the Lord's will here on earth, have been people who have just been seeking to be faithful and to know the Lord and to walk with the Lord. So I think of Moses. Like, can you imagine if Moses were to just walk up to the Red Sea of his own volition and say, okay, time to part? Moses didn't have that kind of power, but the God who was working through him did. I think about the disciples who were able to heal and to cast out demons. And they did that because they knew Jesus and they walked with Jesus and were empowered by Jesus. And again, great things not of their own volition, and probably not something that they ever probably thought they could do it on their own. Um, and it reminds me of recently. I had a friend who God asked her to do a really weird thing that she never would have thought to do, and um, but she was faithful. She listened to the Lord, and it ended up being great. It was miraculous, the result of her faithful steps. And it came out of the fact that she was familiar with God. And this great thing was a result of her listening to the Lord who she is familiar with and seeks to follow. Um, so I think that there's something to be said. It might not be a perfect model, but to know God is to know and do His great things. I recognize sometimes it's harder to hear the voice of the Lord than others, um, and that's valid. But I think that when we walk in step with the Spirit, and when we are in tune with the character of God and committed to knowing God, I think that we grow in sensitivity to being able to sense His great things as opposed to my great things that I hope that He approves of. Um, I love the line from C.S. Lewis where it says, Aslan is on the move. And Aslan is the kind of Christ figure in the Narnia series. And the truth is that Aslan is on the move. God is always moving and always present in the world. And so I think that it's an important distinction to move from, like, God, what do you want me to do? To God, what are you doing and how can I participate? What great things are you already bringing about? And how can you use me in doing those great things and establishing your kingdom here as it is in heaven? So I've been thinking about practical ways in which this can be carried out, but I really believe that it starts with just knowing the Lord and being in relationship with God. And great things come out of a life lived with Him. So I can say I'm going to take on the prophets of Baal, and God help me. But Elijah, after his life was dedicated to speaking the word of the Lord and to bringing about His will and to sort of call out these powers. Elijah had spent time with God, and he knew God's heart was against idolatry. And he knew God wanted to be established as the one true God in a world where a lot of different things were worshipped. And because of that, he was able to hear the Lord, do as he was commanded, and have it be God's movements rather than his own great deeds. So I think be patient. Know that great things come out of the smallness of relationship. And I truly believe that it's the quiet moments that the disciples spent eating breakfast with Jesus that resulted in them being able to do the great things in His name. And we have the Holy Spirit now, and the Holy Spirit guides us and brings us into intimacy with the Lord and shapes us into His image. So, in all of this, be patient, sit in that smallness with God, and seek His will in that way. Seek His will by knowing His character. Discern by being familiar with who He is and what He is accomplishing in the world. See how Aslan is on the move and run alongside Him. God invites us into His movements as opposed to us inviting God into ours. So I hope that is encouraging to you today as you maybe are discerning, trying to figure out what path to walk down, your next step of faith. My best advice is to spend time with God, get to know Him, and I think that we can all dance into something higher through that. So, I hope that everybody has an amazing Thursday. As I said, Ashlyn first, I love you, I pray for you, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon.